Thank you so much for joining us tonight, guys. We're really excited to chat about Raw Fuel. That essentially yesterday was the launch of the endurance line here in Austin. We have a lot of people in Austin that ran the marathon today. They used it for the marathon. They came out to that event. So I just want to say a big thank you for coming out to support that. We do have Matt Jansen, the owner, one of the owners of Raw, on the call to chat about the timeline, the product, this whole project with you guys. And then we also have Dom Kuza, who is in charge of brand education. And he's going to talk more in depth about the science behind the product, as well as what are other products that endurance athletes can benefit from that Raw Nutrition does carry. By the way, I say Raw and it sounds like a lion. I need to say it like an American says raw. So just remind me, Raw Nutrition. I just think of that. So without further ado, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you. And we also have a presentation. So whenever you feel like we should bring up that presentation to help guide the chat,
okay.
When I can do that. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to just introduce myself really quick. And I know that some of you guys, this is our third call. So between the introduction call of the sponsors for 2024, I was on that. And then I had a call with some of our athletes as well this week. I just want to kind of go over, for those people that may not know who I am one of the owners of Raw. Dom and I started Revive, which is the vitamin and nutraceutical line. We started that in 2019. And basically, as soon as we started, we had a pretty decent support system, and people kept asking us to bring proteins into the line, creatine. And Dom had this vision with the Revive side to keep it very clinical, because he started off in medical clinics. So he wanted to have the vitamins be represented in his clinics, and he drew pretty a hard line in the sand about that. So for a while, we weren't interested in sports supplementation, but again, we kept having more and more just support and requests, and then that's when we kind of started. Initial discussions for Raw started in October of 2019, and then we actually launched. And this is a pretty cool part of our story. But we built the company. Initial formulations, manufacturing, all that through COVID, and then we launched in August of 2020. So then let's kind of fast forward. My background is my degree is in exercise science. I kind of found my niche in coaching physique athletes, bodybuilders, people that compete in powerlifting and things like that. And that's how I got my start, and that's how Dom and I got connected. So that was really the initial basis of both Revive and Raw, in that I had a pretty good reputation within our community and brought those people into the company. And then fast forward to this summer, I started researching, and I just wanted to do something new. I also wanted to get back into just endurance-based sports, because that was something that I did growing up. I was a soccer player. I played in college, and I just missed it. The bodybuilding side of Matt had been put on the back burner for a long time now. I injured myself in 2020 and kind of put it to rest there. So that's when I reached out to Natasha, and we started working together. And what I found early on is, just in all honesty, I didn't have any initial desire to create an endurance-based line, but through talking with Natasha and, just our relationship and her recommending things to me, I was having all these jugs on my counter every morning, and it was taking me like 15 minutes to make all my shakes. And that's when I'm like, well, I have the means and the resources. Let's see if we can do something together and just make it really special. So that's initially, August, September timeline is when this really took off. And I had an initial formula made that I passed on to Natasha. And one of the biggest things that she did within the formula was within the research, and again, in the bodybuilding space, cluster dextrin is a very well-researched, highly regarded ingredient. So that was what the formula initially had. And then Natasha came in right away, and she's like, we need to scrap that. And then that's when I've actually opened my eyes more so to maltodextrin, for the sake of, in the bodybuilding space, it's not like the sexy supplement, but from a carbohydrate standpoint, it still works very well. The mixability is there. And, so I kind of went back to the old Matt of just true sports supplementation versus, what's the most sexiest carb out kind of thing. And then we started to really test this formula. And first we went through several rounds of testing just for taste. And then once we got the taste nailed down, then that's when Natasha really took over. And I'm sure some of you guys were a part of this, started to really test it for performance at a 1 hour mark, 2 hour mark, and then the 3 to 5 hour mark. Because for her to stand behind this product, what was really important is that it could, be sustained throughout the whole race that you guys are doing. And that was also very important to me. So now let's kind of fast forward. Our initial plan was to launch this in January. And we've had, I made a post about this yesterday and tagged Natasha, so you might have seen it, but like I think the sports supplementation for Raw is to the point now where it's pretty easy. We have hiccups with like really large ordering and things like that every once in a while, but taking on this endurance division, it's almost like we have a brand new company within a company, so it's almost like we're a startup company all over again. So some of the initial hiccups that startup companies have, we've gone through in terms of, we actually own, one thing that's important that I want you guys to know too, is that we own our flavors. So a lot of companies, what they'll do is they will contract out a manufacturer. The manufacturer will make the flavor, but then when they make the product, the manufacturer still owns the flavor. Whereas what we're doing, we own the flavor. So then there's like a two-step process of when we solidify that flavor and approve it, then our flavor team has to work with the manufacturer to match it and to match all the same branding of individual ingredients and flavor systems to get it exactly right. So that was kind of part one. And then, the other big part, not only just for myself, but Natasha and everybody involved on this call, is to get everything within the endurance line Inform Sport. So that's a contract process. That's not just like hey, we're going to sign up and do this, we're going to pay you money. There's contracts involved, there's timelines involved. And then once the product is made, it then has to get pulled off the line, sent to Inform Sport. Inform Sport takes anywhere from 10 to 14 days to go through their approval process. Then, they sign off on it. Then we get that documentation for each batch number, each SKU, and then we're good. So it's just this initial process has taken a little bit longer than what I had hoped for, but I know I'm confident now that we're in a really good spot. I'm really happy with how this weekend went. I even told Natasha yesterday, like, I'm very confident within Raw's line and not only confident, but it's like a passion project for both of us. Like, I want this to be one of the top SKUs that we have. And I believe with the resources that we have that we can do that, so now it's just more so about, I think Natasha can kind of tell her side of the story of, choosing carb sources, choosing sodium. Cause that was another big thing too, So when I started with her, I was using Gatorade, I was using cluster dextrin, I was using Relight. And then on top of that, because I sweat a ton, we were adding sodium citrate to that. So it just got really, really complex, So what we wanted to do is we wanted to build a formula that would really cover a lot of y'all's needs and bases. And then obviously there's the outliers that might need more, hydration, less hydration, add more sodium to it. But we still wanted to do our best to at least cover as many of you guys as possible within just one bottle.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just a quick side on from my end. This is very exciting for us because exactly what Matt spoke to, it's kind of been a science experiment on the counter every Saturday morning because we're telling athletes to put this product, but add sugar, but add citrate. And so the fact that we could bring to market, like everything is in this one scoop, in this one product. And it's something that we know that is going to sit well on the stomach, especially when you're running carbohydrates up over 100 grams of carbs because of the exact carbohydrate sources and the exact ratios of carbohydrates, as well as the exact sources and ratios of sodium. You needed to get that right. And we're honestly at the forefront of the market in running those ratios. Morton, we actually did a sheet that we're going to bring up. And right now, Morton and maybe one other company is running a 1 to 0.8 ratio so that you can run carbohydrates up over 100 grams of carbs. Most companies are doing a 2 to 1 glucose to fructose ratio. And that is where the market is going. So we feel really excited about that. And then it's funny what Matt said. So yesterday, the biggest takeaway is people loved the flavor. They were like, this is insane. How did orange taste this good? That was the biggest feedback above everything. And so it's really cool that like they have their own flavor control. No one else can have the flavor that we've made. And that is such a big part of this. When you are taking in that many carbohydrates, you want it to taste good. You still want to be able to drink it 6 hours, 7 hours into the race. So we're really excited to bring this to you guys. I'm going to bring up the presentation. I know Dom is going to speak to this a little bit more as well. And then we're going to go through timeline, Matt. And then we're going to go through of what's to come. And then we'll speak a little more science through Dom. I believe Dom's on this call. I can't see because of the way it's set up over here. And then talk about a couple other things as well as a comparison chart. So let me pull this up.
Yeah, and guys, just to speak on the flavor just a little bit more while she's pulling it up. So 2 things. You guys specifically as the NVDM team, we want you guys to feel a part of this. So as of right now, obviously we have 2 flavors solidified. But again, as we go, we're actually testing some other flavors right now, but you guys give us your feedback on what flavors you would like, because what I think is really important too, as I was, again, going through this whole process of formulating this, one thing that I feel is really important is to stay properly hydrated. You actually have to enjoy what you're drinking as well, because some of the products that I was trying to drink, they just didn't have a good taste to them. And that's when I noticed that I was ending the ride more dehydrated, and I still had, had water in my bottle simply because I wasn't wanting to drink. So it has to be like palatable and easy to go down. So I saw the watermelon comment. We are working on a watermelon. But yeah, anything that you guys like want, or things that you truly enjoy drinking, like let us know, and then we can get samples out to the team. And again, we want you guys to be really involved in this. And this isn't just like raw, like we truly partnered with Natasha and everybody that's associated with her, just to create something special. And I believe that we're doing that. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So guys, this was just introductions of those on the call and speaking. So this is what is to come. Matt, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll talk on this. And I just want to, Dom is on the call. I saw him.
Okay.
I just want to introduce him as well to you guys. So Dom Kuza is somebody that if I could put it in just concise him as a person, super passionate, super caring, does things without expecting anything in return. And then the one thing that I really, really appreciate about him is he can take really complex information and just really, simplify it for you guys. So the purpose of this call tonight is just to make sure that you guys understand what it is, what's coming, and then also just how to utilize it yourselves, in a way that's simple. And Dom does a great job with that. So as far as the product line goes, we are going, this is kind of the current timeline as of today. The big in-person launch was yesterday with Natasha in Austin. We started sending out PR boxes to, I believe, probably 55 people at this point. That should be hitting everybody this week. So we're going to kind of get some more just awareness about the product and awareness about what Raw is doing in the endurance space within the next week to 10 days. And then we're going to launch the product. But I did want to just let you guys know I'm going to be working on this, and I'll communicate with Natasha. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put a link on the website, so that way that you guys that want to go ahead and purchase ahead of time can do so and then start utilizing it. And then we'll still do our big launch announcement, but you guys might already have the product at that point, just so that way, there's really no point in waiting. So I want to let you guys know that. So Fuel will be first, and that is going to be in lemon, lime, and orange. And then coming in April, we're going to do the same process again. So we're going to do some type of event, ideally launch it in person there. And then we're going to do the PR boxes, and then we're going to bring out Replenish, which is Replenish is the competitor with Element and Relight, in the sense that it's going to be a pure electrolyte formula. But the difference between ours and theirs, well, there's a few differences, but again, we own the flavor system. There is sugar in ours. It's going to be at 5 grams. And that was something that Natasha was pretty adamant about, just to help the uptake of those electrolytes go into your system. And then also, if you're for those people that aren't avid triathletes, but the people that might wake up in the morning and go on a run first thing in the morning, at least they're getting some type of glucose going into their system, if they're using 2 scoops or whatever. So it's giving you a little bit of a carbohydrate base. It is a 1-to-1 ratio of sea salt, again, to citrate, with 1,000 milligrams per serving. And then we have 3 flavors there. So we have lemon lime, we have watermelon mojito, which I think is awesome. We're actually trying to get the watermelon mojito for Fuel as well. But as of right now, for Replenish, it tastes better than Fuel. And I don't want to okay that until we get them. Which I think is a little odd. And it's not that chocolate isn't intended for you guys to do during training sessions, but it's more so we want to kind of market and pair it with a morning coffee, or with a collagen and coffee and things like that. So for those of you that, I personally like to have electrolytes first thing in the morning with water. That's when I enjoy that. And then I usually use the fruitier flavors within training. So that product, and then ideally our salt will be coming out. And this is going to be the handheld race salt that you guys can use on race day or on longer training sessions. And I told this on the other calls, but as this will go down as the most complicated project we've ever done. Basically every step of this, again, within the resources and manufacturers that we had to customize a tube. And then for the tube that we wanted to get that, as close to size, then we had to customize the salt ratio. But again, it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio of salt there. And I'm honestly really excited about that, because as you guys know, there's only one other player in the market that does this right now. So again, it's just the entry point is going to be huge for us. So that's that. Acetyl L-carnitine will be coming out in April as well. And this is a product that's more so on the fat metabolism side of sports performance. So those of you guys that, might need to be dropping weight going into a race, or your race weight and your day-to-day training weight is a little bit fluctuated, this is one of those products that can help there. It can also help with cognitive function. And this is also best consumed with carbohydrates. And I say that on purpose because there's a lot of bad application in the industry. So you would want to consume this like with your pre-race fuel or on your pre-training day fuel. That's the best time to utilize that for fat metabolism. And then the last thing, and this we'll continue to do updates on this, and Natasha and also Charlie, who's on this call, are also a part of this process. We're formulating a gel pack. We're going to try, for lack of a better word, because the what is it, C30, is that right, Natasha? That the C, what's the one brand that you like? C30? You're on mute.
I was unmuted. Never Second was a brand that
Never. Okay, so we're going after a few, but Never Second, Morton from a actual consistency standpoint. But the only difference, we want to also bring our own mix to it, and just again make sure that it's super palatable. It doesn't like overly gum up in your mouth. And then we're going to use the same type of thought process that we've had with fuel, in the sense that we're going to add more sodium to this as well. So for marathon runners that don't like to consume a lot of liquid during a race day, they're still getting their sodium needs from that, as well as the salt tube, that they have with them.
Perfect. Okay. Do we want to turn it over to Dom on this, or do you want to go, or myself?
I mean, either way.
Okay. Dom, why don't you introduce yourself? So we talked about you quite a bit. So why don't you come in at this point, and then we can talk about the formula.
For sure. So my name is Dom Kuza. There's two Doms here at Raw. I'm Dom Kuza, so not to get it confused. But I am a head of brand education, which is just educating the consumer, helping you guys be able to explain a product to maybe somebody who's asking you about it, and then also to help you better understand why we did what. I have a master's degree in exercise physiology, and I do education as another job as well. So with formulation with fuel, one of the things that we talked about was how most of brands are a 2-to-1 ratio, and newer research is showing a little bit better in the favoritism of 1 to 0.8 ratio. That's glucose to fructose, which is helping which we're seeing athletes being able to take higher amounts of carbs at a better rate without GI stress, right? Because that's probably the most important thing when it comes down to the stress of the GI, especially for people who are newer to the sport and trying to get into this more. It takes a lot to work up to amounts. So just ensuring that we don't have a lot of GI distress was the goal. And good research is showing that is in that 1 to 0.8 ratio. And then with the salt, the sodium content is in a ratio of 1-to-1 sea salt to sodium citrate, which, there's a couple different reasons why that works out really well. One is the osmolarity of the drink is in a better position for absorption in the intestines, right? We want a drink to be isotonic or even slightly hypotonic, because we can actually increase gastric emptying a little bit, which means you end up absorbing the carbs faster. And that is a goal, right? With keeping up with fuel during your training. And then also, right, we know that sodium is going to help retain fluid, improve hydration status. And then we also have really good research, and there's obviously, for those of you who are a little bit more versed, in the intestines, we have sodium glucose transporters, which just efficiently help us carb absorb. So there's a lot of different reasons why it's important to have the sodium, but why the two together, doing sodium citrate and sea salt, a lot of it comes down to the osmolarity of the solution, and then mixing them together allows us to have more sodium content with less likelihood of GI distress, and it doesn't taste as salty as well. Citrate is also something that will metabolize and then be used actually in the Krebs cycle for energy purposes as well. So there's a lot of really nice benefits with having this 1-to-1 ratio. And I think it's a phenomenal way to get your sodium in instead of, like, because I'm pretty sure like Relight is just Redmond's, and for some people that's too salty at certain amounts, and that actually can cause some pretty bad GI stress. So this was a big goal for us here, and I think we nailed it pretty nicely.
Awesome. Guys, Dom, I'm going to skip ahead. Guys, we do have a comparison chart here. We're going to come back to that, but we're going to skip ahead because we're going to talk a little bit more on the education of a couple other supplements we have on the Raw site, so that when you go to buy fuel, you also need to be looking at what else that you can use that's going to improve your performance. And so we got a nicely put together chart that Dom is going to speak to here quickly.
Yeah, so right, when we think about endurance sports, a lot of us are probably focused on just the energy availability part of it mostly, and we do miss probably some supplements that could be beneficial. One beta alanine is an amino acid that increases carnosine in your muscle. Carnosine is what helps buffer the pH of your muscle so you don't fatigue as fast. The problem with carnosine is if you were to take that just orally, it breaks down pretty aggressively. So we have to use beta alanine to increase carnosine levels. Now, this is really effective at high intensity and short to medium duration exercise just to reduce lactic acid buildup. But I think with one of the things that it really helps with endurance athletes, and some studies were showing as well, was just improved performance at the end of a race during the during like a sprint finish or something, or some part of an event that has intense sections in it. So helping reduce the fatigue onset, that's one thing that beta alanine helps a lot with. Creatine, right? We usually associate creatine with resistance training, right? But it does have a pretty significant benefit for endurance athletes, mainly, in my opinion, when it comes to training adaptation. So your training sessions are probably going to respond and do really well with having creatine in there, and that will then translate to race day. So that's where creatine has a really nice impact, because it does help a lot with short-term power output, and that's going to improve efficiency in high intense efforts as well.
Perfect.
Let me jump in here really quick. Just some things for you guys to be aware of. So as far as beta alanine, there's nothing bad about it, but especially if your body's not used to it, you can feel some like tingling sensation in your face. So that's just something to be aware of. And then your body will get adapted to that over time. I didn't even notice it nearly as much when I was doing triathlon training as I did when I was strength training, because I think your uptake is just a little bit greater there. So, but just to be aware of that, especially if you're like a first time user and it feels like you want to scratch your face off, just kind of take the dosage down a little bit and then just build up slowly from there. And then I think the creatine, in my opinion, and not even in my opinion, it's factual, is the most researched sports performance ergogenic aid of all time. The benefits are so great, especially for increasing power output. So again, as Dom said, when the race, if races are getting tough, and that can be an edge for you guys. Creatine can slightly increase your weight, but again, that should balance out over time. There's a lot of like negative connotation that you're going to get all this water weight. You might jump up, 1 to 3 pounds, and then you should balance back out and then go back down to your baseline, but it shouldn't be a huge problem long term. And I just wanted to kind of make you guys aware of some of the, like, quote unquote, the negative things about them. So that's all there.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. And then, guys, this is on the Revive side. A question I've gotten a lot recently is, what do I need to take? Typically we say supplementation is what you're not getting from your diet. And these are common things that you're not getting from your diet and you need to supplement. And then anything above this, typically you understand through blood work, and Dom can speak more to that as well. And then through your blood work, you'll understand what you need to get from the Revive side of the company. But if you want to speak to these three quickly.
Yeah, so we at Revive also offer omega-3 fatty acids, which are obviously essential fatty acids. And the word essential is key there, which means you have to get them somehow, either through food or through supplementation. Unfortunately, for most of what like the diet is today, a lot of people are really high in omega-6s and not so much on the omega-3 side. So omega-3 supplementation is very common. But with an improvement if we wanted to speak on endurance for a second, endothelial functioning is something that omega-3s can help a lot with, and also just improving heart health. And then from a recovery standpoint, with joint inflammation, is where we also see a lot of benefits with omega-3s. So omega-3 supplementation is something, for example, I coach a lot of athletes as well, and that's kind of a base supplement that is in everybody's plan, just because of some of the benefits that we see from an anti-inflammation standpoint, a heart health standpoint, and then also a cognitive standpoint, because omega-3s are very helpful for brain function. We also have vitamin D, vitamin K2. Vitamin D, as most of you guys know, is very important for bone health. And it also helps modulate your immune function and immune response, right? So the reason why we see people get really sick all of a sudden could be a vitamin D insufficiency, for example. So vitamin D can help a lot with immune function. And with vitamin D deficiencies and insufficiencies, they're a lot more common than you think. If you live somewhere that is sunny and you feel like you're outside a lot, you still probably do not make enough vitamin D. So I would highly suggest supplementing, at least at the minimum, getting your blood work done to test for that marker, because for a lot of people who think they get enough sunlight, it usually isn't enough exposure. And then vitamin K works really synergistically to vitamin D. And this is also going to help with calcium absorption, bone health, and a very important one with vitamin K2 is it can actually help against arterial stiffening. So improving the health of your vascular system. And then magnesium, in my opinion, is probably one of the most important supplements. It's involved in 300, actually more than 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. It's associated with energy production, muscle function, DNA and RNA synthesis. Adequate levels of magnesium are crucial for muscle function, preventing cramps, and the amount of sweat that endurance athletes undergo deplete magnesium extremely aggressively. So I'm a very big fan of having magnesium, and it's a very inexpensive supplement to have in your plan.
Just a few things just to add there too. Magnesium is best consumed away from caffeine as best as you can. I personally like to have magnesium first thing in the morning, and then I utilize it as well in the evening just to kind of wind down and relax. But so for me, I'll take my magnesium as soon as I wake up, and then wait about 30 to 45 minutes before I have any coffee, just to kind of give a little bit of spacing there. And then omegas, D3, K2, those are best consumed with a fat-based meal.
Very good. Is there anything to speak to this that we maybe haven't covered, or we can go to the other chart?
I think that's all pretty much.
I think that's all pretty much that we wanted to cover. You know what I'm going to do for you, Natasha? I'm going to put together a plan, like a example plan, and I'll send it to you, and you can forward it to everybody as well. Okay. Kind of how to implement some of these things.
That would be helpful. Thank you, Dom. Appreciate it. Okay, guys, we are going to go to the comparison chart. Obviously, there are so many more products on the market, but we just picked kind of the ones I know a lot of you guys are using so that you could see the variance in the prices, the servings per container. I think that is where we really get set apart. I handed folks a jug yesterday, and they couldn't believe when I handed to them how heavy the jug was, because in this jug, there's 60 servings versus most companies, the jug is half full and there's 25 to 30 servings. So that was something I was really excited about. Of course, with that, the cost per serving is the most affordable on the market, to my understanding. I know before, I think Gatorade Endurance was, and then obviously these smaller brands that are just endurance focused because they're smaller companies. And Matt can speak to this as well as to why the cost came to this ratio, but we're quite a bit less. And then you can also see the breakdown and the sources of carbs. And so if you say, hey, I've been using Precision Hydration, and what is the source of carbohydrates they've been using? Well, it's glucose, fructose. It's exactly what we're doing as well. If that works for you, the difference is just the ratio. That was 2 to 1. we're 1 to 0.08, which is explained right here, which is similar to Morton. And then we thought it was very important to make sure the sodium was up there as well, where some of these other products are lower in sodium or don't have any sodium. And now you have to supplement and now you're adding something. So the addition of what you're needing is just very small to what we find most people are losing in their sweat. And then hopefully we can make that up for the products that are coming with additional handheld salts, etc. Matt, do you want to speak to this chart?
Yeah. So, in talking to athletes, and again, we were formulating this, I think one of the biggest concerns is that like the top players in the industry right now, the cost was for some athletes, they just couldn't afford it. So, let's speak on Morton for an example. This is one of the highly regarded supplements, but yet a lot of the athletes in the space that needed the most, they couldn't afford to consistently use this for both training days and race days. And what we really did is, again, and I'm thankful for this, because of the relationships that we have with our manufacturers, we just leveraged them to really, really get our costs to a good spot for you guys. That was really important to me, because I want this product just from I'm extremely competitive in everything that I do. And from a business standpoint, I just want this to take over. But in order to do that, and entering a space that, again, we're brand new to, we need to do things differently, so we need to provide a really quality product. The ratio of carbohydrates needs to be where the research shows. How the sodium titrates up based off of the ratio of carbohydrates was super important. And then, also trying to give you guys a price point that was super competitive, or everybody in the industry starts to look at and they're like, holy cow, how are they doing this? So again, that's again why this has taken so long, because we just didn't go to any manufacturer. We leverage the relationships that we currently have, because we're placing really, really large POs for protein and things like that. And we went to those same manufacturers to then make this once we had the flavoring system down, and then every other part, signed off and approved on by Natasha.
Right. Okay. I think that's it. Dom, if you had anything else to say before we close out the call, since we're on time.
No, I think that was awesome.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. When it comes to ordering, as Matt said, we're going to send out a link so you guys will be able to order before everyone else out there. And please definitely share your experience. And then as you all get a discount as well. So most of the coaches have a code that will give you 15% off your order on all Raw and all Revive products. So please go to your coach, use their code. If they don't have a code, then use another coach's code. Or also know that our upcoming elite development team, they also have codes. And so you using a code directly supports them and their goals of trying to become a pro, which is really amazing to be able to support them in this way. So wait on that from your coach, or supporting one of our pros, one of our upcoming pros, when ordering this. That's fair to say, right? Matt?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for your time. We will send this out in a recorded call. We'll send out this PDF as well so that you have it. And we will see you next week. Okay, bye, guys.
See you guys.